I'm Rob,
And I'm Matt,
and this is the LA Noire VR Case Files review.
by Barefoot Gaming.
Let's get down to what this game is. Matthew.
So, I mean, if you've ever played LA Noire before, you know it's kind of like Grand Theft Auto, except you're a cop in this scenario and you have to solve these crimes.
Less prostitutes.
Yes, much less.
So you're a police officer.
So, you're basically finding clues to accuse someone of basically murdering someone or doing damage to anything and anywhere. So you go to different places to find different clues, talk to different people, then you have your little notebook that has all the information in it, and you ask the questions through there, and each individual question will bring you to another step in the scenario.
And this game requires a minimum 2 meter by 2 meter play space. So it does allow like different kinds of movements, different teleportations, and different kind of arm swinging and stuff. But you should be expected to have enough room that you can actually reach around different areas. Getting back to prostitutes. Sorry.
There was that one guy that I just
Yeah, we're gonna edit that part out.
Okay.
So you do have to actually get around and look at different areas, move things around. There are certain objects that are interactive, other ones are not.
Doesn't really have a rhyme or reason for which objects are interactive or not. I think it's just basically the models that they have. It was the simplest for them to make it so you could interact with them. Other than that, it's kind of the generalized stuff that you know you're supposed to be using are kind of like a bright gold without you even having to really look for them.
And a big part of it in both the 2D version and VR is watching people's expressions.
Yeah, you constantly have to watch their eyes, see if they're twitching back and forth. If they kind of look at you dead eye and like it looks like they're telling the truth, then they most likely are. But if they're also twitching their eyes back and forth and kind of looking away from you constantly, then you want to pull the bad cop or accuse them.
Especially on interrogations. When you're interrogating, that's the most important when that happens.
Which took you a really long time.
6 tries the first time. I never played the 2D version, alright?
You got yelled at so much.
So many times. Different kinds of locomotion, I touched on it, but Matthew, how do you move around this game?
Right, so there's different ways to do it. So you can do the standard where basically you look at an object, it glows yellow, and then you just click your controller and then it kind of forces your character to walk towards that and you see them walking towards it. Or you can double tap on the motion trackpad, and then wherever your eye is looking there's a circle on the screen, and if you click again it'll just jolt you towards that area
like a teleport. And the other one is very much of an out of body experience,
right.
Watching you walk away from yourself.
And the other one basically you hold up your controllers, hold in the triggers, and you kind of move your arms as if you're running. I wouldn't really recommend using that one because there was multiple times where I would kind of shoot past the target and you can't really stop on a dime like you would want to. It feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and this is something that I've heard rumors of them talking about putting just regular movement, like trackpad movement in. Right now, as we're reviewing this, it's not there. But that's something you might want to look into if that's a deal breaker for you.
Yeah, that would be something that I would prefer playing with because the 3 styles that I played with, they weren't really my cup of tea.
And driving. You can also drive a vehicle.
Right. The driving itself, I mean, you grab the steering wheel with your triggers, and then you your right triggers, your forward, left triggers, reverse. It feels, so a lot of games you drive them, it feels like there's some weight behind a vehicle, but I guess in VR it's a little bit more difficult to kind of feel that weight because as you're steering, it feels really loose on the controller and there is a little bit of vibration there, and if you turn really hard then all of a sudden the vehicle will really go for it, but other than that it feels really loose to me.
I'm a really good driver, and that was the difference.
Yeah.
We had Matthew driving all over the place, and I was just crazy good at driving.
I did jump that one dirt pile, I don't know what it was, but
and you don't have to drive if you don't want. You can look at your notepad, and that's something else that we should mention. But you can look at your notepad and you can say where you're trying to drive to. You click it, and then you can either click warp to, or you can start driving and then pull a lever that will also warp you to where you're actually going to be doing your interrogation or investigation or whatever your next part of the mission is.
The warping for me was probably like the best way for it because if you're driving around, so LA Noire on like the 360 and stuff like that was very much so you could play it in an open world, whereas in VR it feels like they just want you to kind of stick to the story mode. Driving around doesn't really do anything for you. You can't really go to different places and do multiple things. It kind of just follows a straight path for you to go through.
Yeah, so even though technically you can drive all around the city, there isn't stuff to do. And this does have a reduced number of missions compared to LA Noire that was released on console. Single player only, something that needs to be pointed out. So let's get to the actual review of this thing. This is a AAA developed ported game. This clearly was not built for VR. And the graphics obviously show more of a dated age because it's based on an older console.
Yep.
However, in VR, that's something we kind of have to get used to because our video cards don't really have the horsepower to push, you know, those AAA now graphics that you're playing into VR without crippling your machine.
Yep.
So let's get to the actual review. Out of 5, how many hats that are covering your eyes to make it difficult to see out of 5 would you give this game? And why?
So actually, I just want to touch on the hat real quick. The hat is the most annoying thing ever. I don't know whose idea it was to put the hat like in your view, but it's so dumb. Like, just remove the hat.
You can take it off though.
Yeah.
Initially you couldn't, now you can just grab it and throw it away.
Yeah.
And it appears in your back seat.
Yeah.
$40 Canadian. I should mention this game is going for $40 Canadian, and that does always play into our value of review. Matthew, out of 5 on the hat scale.
2.5. Honestly, I wanted to really enjoy the game. I wanted to love it because I remember playing the game on my 360 and it was a lot of fun for me. I mean, it had the open world, you'd be a cop instead of being the robber, but I just didn't like being forced through the story the way that it wanted me to. I mean, there wasn't as much to do. It felt really limited to everything that basically led up to each scenario. I mean, you go to one place and you find all the clues because they're basically lit up for you. You just follow the steps and then you get to the next story mission. To me, there wasn't really much to it. And for $40, I don't know, I wish there was more.
Fair enough. For me, I'd rank it a little bit higher, but I can't really compare it to the older version. Since I never played LA Noire on the consoles, I'd rate this probably a 3.5 out of 5. I would say I would recommend it if you're not necessarily looking for something high action. Good grief, I had so much fun slapping. You can totally slap people. That should be an addition to every single virtual reality game. You can hold up your fists and actually get into boxing matches with guys when they attack you, not just go on shootouts and stuff. But you can leave your hand open and just slap them about until they can't take it anymore. They fall down and you can arrest them. That gets a half point just in slappability as far as I'm concerned.
You would have been a 3 before that slap.
It would have been a 3. It's a 3.5. It's a solid 3.5 for that slapping.
Perfect.
I liked the game enough that at $40, the way I kind of figured this is there are a reduced number of missions, and we probably went through about half of them before we stopped to do the review. And what I figure is I'm still leaving the game wondering what's coming up ahead. I'm excited to play more hours. We put a couple hours in, and if I can get a couple more hours out of it, at $10 an hour, as far as I'm concerned, I'm getting good value in this game. Like I said, I'm actually enjoying the missions. And I know we have missed certain clues, we've missed certain things, which would make other things easier in the future. It would make interrogations easier.
That
we can
first
pull up.
mission probably, yeah.
Absolutely, I think we missed a couple things. So for me, I see a reason to go back to this, and I'm excited to keep playing. So I'm gonna recommend it. I'm at the 3.5, and that's it.
That's the review.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. I think we're done. Out of here. Talk to you later.
See ya.